Hi everybody, Carmen here with Quality Sewing, and for this week's How Do I, we are going to talk about how you prevent common issues with your sewing machine. Because we have all been there where we are sewing along happily and then something goes wrong, right? We skip some stitches, your machine sounds really bad. You know, those things just happen to each of us. I mean, even those of us who know sewing machines really well, when it is 2 a.m. and I am tired and I'm trying to finish a project, my machine messes up. And sometimes that's really just because of something that I have done. So I'm going to talk through some of the common things that can happen with your machine, and then I'm going to talk a fair bit about how we prevent having issues with our machines, because there are some things that are easy and simple that each of us can do that will make it so our machines work like new most every time. So you can see here I have a couple of different machines in front of me right now. So let's just first talk about some maintenance for your machine. So our machines, we work them hard, right? And so they need some TLC just like any other working, mechanical thing, right? Tons of the parts of our machines are electronic, but they still have things that are moving, right? Our needle is going up and down, our bobbin is spinning, right? Or moving. So there's pieces that are working inside your machine, and you need to make sure that they have the care that they need. So the things, first of all, the first thing is everyone should get their sewing machine serviced once a year by, a professional, because there are so many parts of our machines that we can't actually get to. And the only way you can get to them is you have to take the covers off the machine, which you as a consumer should really never do because that voids your warranty. You want a technician to do that. And how many of you have found lint in your sewing machine before, right? Like you see the lint here in your bobbin case, or like down here in your bobbin case here, or lint here, right? So the reason why I bring this up is all of that lint, like you see a little bit of it on your machine, but all that lint is getting sort of pushed in to your machine in different places. And so when they fully go through and service your machine, they're going to clean out all of that stuff. And lint and dust, they are not great, obviously, for the electronics of our machine. They're just not great in general, right? They can like jam things up. And so that's why you want to have your machine cleaned and serviced once a year, because that in itself is going to really help your machine work better. So the thing you can do at home there, though, is clean out your bobbin area and make sure you don't have a ton of lint everywhere. So, most machines are going to come with some little pouch of goodies, right? Whether it be a pouch or a little baggie. A lot of them come with a lot of just sort of basic accessories with your feet and things. And so a lot of them are going to come with a little brush. And the reason why this brush comes with most sewing machines is because they get linty and dusty, and you can go in and clean out your machine. So like on this machine here, I might pull this off, pull out my bobbin, right? And I could get some lint out here. Most machines you can take off your needle plate. And if you pop your needle plate off, you can get some more lint and things out. If you have the machine like this Bernina that's sitting over here, this guy also has a bobbin case that's going to pop out, right? And you can get the lint that's all in here. Sometimes there's a lot of lint up in here, right? You can even see I'm getting some lint off right now. And you can brush out those areas, right? Get all that gunk out of your machine. So you might be thinking, well, how do I prevent getting all that gunk in my machine to start with, Carmen, right? Well, there are some things we can do to prevent all of that lint in our machine. So one of the things that we can do is use really good thread, because better thread is not as fuzzy. And if your thread is not as fuzzy, it's not going to produce near as much lint around your machine. So you want to use high quality thread. The other great thing about high quality thread is when you're using high quality thread, you are less likely to have skip stitches. You are less likely to have thread like shredding. You're less likely to have other issues with, or thread breakage even, if you're using really good high quality thread. All of the thread that we carry at Quality Sewing and Vacuum is good quality thread. So some of the brands we carry are Madeira, right? Madeira is beautiful thread. We have this is their construction thread. It's called Aerofill. We also carry some of their other thread, like their Aero Quilt for quilting, their Aero Lock for serging. They make a lot of really beautiful thread. Some of the other thread that we carry is like we have the Aerofill. Aerofill makes great, beautiful quilting thread. We have the Quilter Select thread. We have lots of different types of thread, and you know if you're purchasing it from us, it's going to be a good quality thread. So make sure that your thread is good. That's going to help reduce some of the lint and things. And it's going to help you have less issues. So the other really big one, and might be the largest thing, is your needles. So needles are so important because as that needle, right, the way that a sewing machine works is that bobbin's sort of going and this needle's coming down, right, and it's forming a stitch. So you have a timing in your machine to make sure that needle comes down in the perfect moment to create that stitch. Well, as soon as your needle gets dull, it's going just a tiny bit slower, right? And it doesn't create that stitch, and that's why you get a skip stitch. And if you start listening, you can actually usually hear on your machine what it sounds like when she's happy, right? You can just hear it's just like going along, and the minute that it starts getting dull, a lot of times before I've skipped a stitch, I can hear that my needle is dull. It just takes just a little bit longer to pierce that fabric. It makes sort of a noise, or the big sign is it skips stitches. So you really want to change your needles at least every 8 hours of sewing or at the beginning of each project. And these are sort of loose guidelines. And I say that because sometimes when you're working with some sort of fabric that maybe has polyester or like maybe it's like vinyl, there's certain types of fabric that will dull your needle faster. And some of them, you know, so you might just need to change your needle more frequently than every 8 hours or once a project. But a good rule of thumb is you finish a project, you put a new needle in, because then you're gonna start with, you're gonna start fresh and be ready to go to be successful. So the other thing about needles is there are a ton of different types of needles. And a lot of these different needles are going to help you be successful because they have different points. So like we even have this little needle guide that we sell. So if you're like, I had no idea there was different types of needles. Feels really overwhelming. I'm not going to go into all the types right now. That is a different How Do I just on needles. But for today, this little book is really handy because it shows you the different types of sewing machine needles, and it tells you, you know, about them, and it tells you what the different types will do for you. So like this, this is a great little class A set because it comes with a lot of the different types of needles. It has leather needles, metallic, stretch, ballpoint, jeans, sharp, quilting, and embroidery, and then some universal needles. So needles have, what makes them different is the point. The point of the needle is a little sharper on a sharp needle or on a quilting needle or on a denim needle, for example. And then the other thing about needles is what size they are. And generally speaking, if you know, for most of your projects, using like a 90-14 is probably going to work out pretty well for you. I personally tend to default to like a 90-14 denim needle or quilting needle or something, just as sort of my basic needle. Now, that doesn't mean I don't use other needles, because I definitely do. Like if I'm going to work on fine fabric, I'm going to put a smaller needle in. But a little bit bigger needle is going to also have a little larger opening for the eye of the needle where the thread goes. And one of the common things that we hear about is people struggling with their needle threaders, and that can sometimes be because the needle is actually too small. And so if you have a needle threader on your machine, you're going to really want to pretty much always use a needle that's at least a 75. So the bigger the number, so if it's like 90, the bigger the top number, 90-14, right? The bigger the number there is going to be the bigger the needle. And so like a 75-11 is a little smaller needle than a 90-14. But I'd recommend having a selection of needles, because sometimes when you're working on something, just changing that needle makes the thread behave better, makes the stitch quality a lot better. And sometimes you just have to test a couple with the fabric and thread combination that you're using. So, so really quickly, I'm going to put this back together here. The other thing when our machines are misbehaving, and I just tell everybody this all the time, the number one thing to do first is rethread your machine. And put a new needle in, right? Sometimes just rethreading will solve it. Like if you get that bird nest underneath your fabric, it's usually because it's not in this upper tension disc, right? So you just want to rethread. So I'm just going to rethread this guy. Rethread your machine whenever something is not going right. And then I'm just going to show you on this guy, he has an awesome needle threader, which is amazing. Voila, look at that. It just threaded my needle for me like magic. And that helps because I have the right size needle in there, right? So that's working better, which is awesome. So the other thing about threading that that could be, sometimes you'll get, like if you're having shredded threads, right? Change your needle. But sometimes it's because the way the thread is coming off the spool that you end up having some issues. And most spools, you know, are happy to lay down like this guy. But a lot of machines are going to come with a secondary spool pin that goes upright that can hook on here. And so sometimes you need to put your spool vertical and have it be up here. Or sometimes you might want to get a adjustable thread stand. And what this guy does for you is it sits behind your machine, and then you thread the machine like normal. And this works for large cones. It can be great for like finicky thread if you're working with metallic or something. But once again, this is a good thing to have in your toolkit. So if something about your machine isn't quite working right, this can sometimes solve it, because just depending on how that thread is spooling off. The other thing is some machines really like the thread to spool over the top, and others like it to go from underneath. And if you're not quite sure what I mean by that is like when you start threading, if the thread is this way, or if it's flipped this way and the thread is up and over the top. And some of those things can also help out your machine and make sure it's happier most of the time. So it looks like I forgot to talk about a couple of things really quick. If for some reason you don't have one of these little brushes to clean out your machine, you can buy them. There's like, these are some nice ones. They're called the sewing machine cleaning brushes. They're little teeny tinies. You can get in there and get stuff. There's larger ones like this, but I would definitely have one of these to get all of that gunk and stuff out from around your machine. So I hope that this was helpful for you. Take care of your machine, rethread if you have any issues. Put a new needle in. I can't really emphasize that enough. Needles really can make all the difference. It's sort of amazing. So have some of those on hand in different sizes and styles. And then of course, get your machine serviced once a year by a professional, because that is really important. And you know what, you guys, I did forget one thing. I did want to talk about machine oil, and I didn't talk about that. So over here, this Bernina, this guy does need oil. Most of our sewing machines, we do not need to oil them, most because they're plastic. In their bobbin cases, and most machines you don't need to oil anywhere on them. Any oiling is done by technicians, not by you, so you don't have to worry about that. But if for some reason your machine did need oiling, it would show you in the owner's manual. So that is the thing I sort of forgot to mention, is look at your owner's manual for your machine. It will tell you if there's specific maintenance that you can do for your machine, and you should be doing that. So like the Bernina has very specific instructions on how to do that, how to oil that hook, and it has a little oil pen that it comes with. And so that's the other thing, because I definitely get that question a lot, like where should I oil my machine? Every machine is different, and you want to follow the guidelines in your instruction manual, because that's going to tell you what to do. So hopefully I didn't forget anything else. Thank you so much for joining us. We have great content next week. Watch us every Tuesday at 10 a.m. live Pacific time for a new How Do I with some fun content and tips. Happy